So, you all know that I almost never discuss any drama on my channel that happens in Incredibox community. The reasons why I don't do that is because covering it always stresses me out, and I didn't need that during my university studies. Well, I am now done with it, so I think it's time to actually discuss some problems that I have with community and some problematic people. And one of the recent cases is gonna be Cyberboxer. Some might know him as a mod maker who made some mods varying quality, and some might know him as an actual prick and one of the most toxic people in the community, beefing with anyone who dared to criticize him or joke about him. In this video, I will discuss the recent drama that involves Cyberboxer and a lot of other people that are connected to him, which spans couple of years of terrible and manipulative behavior, allegedly having his friend to make revenge porn of a minor, and attempts at silencing people. This video exists only as an informational piece and it should not harass anybody mentioned in it. All the claims that are not verified with proofs are allegations, and you should take them with a grain of salt. As of making this video, Cyberboxer has deleted his YouTube channel and Discord server, so a lot of material cannot be viewed outside of screenshots provided in this video. Let's begin. This drama starts with another person on the side, Chester, somewhat of a controversial mod maker due to his creation of a pretty infamous joke mod, Piss, a parody of PH, with the intent to parody some parts of the community that make exaggerated, sexualized character designs in their mods, one of the biggest examples being Arvo, a fan-made remake of Armed. He's also known for his rage-baiting behavior, which would cause a lot of meltdowns in the community, mostly in the mod.io comment sections. He committed one of the biggest sins in the internet fandom by being annoying. And one of the people Chester was constantly rage-baiting was Cyberboxer, for the reasons we will discuss later. And the thing that kickstarted this drama was this joke post on Person from Greece's Discord server by Chester. Pretty stupid and absurd joke that I don't think anyone normal would be upset over. Cyberboxer saw this post and decided that the best way to deal with it is to message Chester and start to blackmail him and try to silence him by leaking some personal information. For context, Chester is 17 years old, a minor, and Cyberboxer is allegedly a young adult, somewhere in 19 years old. But without even waiting for Chester to actually properly respond, Cyberboxer decided to immediately act by making this post from his deleted YouTube channel, where he mockingly shows two images. One is showcasing Chester's DMs with two commissions he ordered from the same artist, where one of them was a gift for a friend and asking to not share the gift to anyone. And the second screenshot was Chester's community post, where he criticized the user we will call Agil for drawing an OC from a popular modmaker Overbite in a pretty suggestive way. And in Cyberboxer's eyes, I guess it was the way to show how big of a hypocrite Chester was. But here's the thing, this post is incredibly manipulative that only shows what Cyber wants you to see. Let's start with the second screenshot, as it is much easier to break down. The person who drew the fanart, Agil, was pretty notoriously known for drawing suggestive artworks of female characters either from mods or from other content creators. And one of the characters was an avatar of Overbite, who at that time just turned 17. Agil, by the way, is 19 years old. And because of that, Chester decided to call them out. Their Discord account would eventually be suspended, which they made a post about it, also stating that they will stop making explicit artworks. Now, I decided to personally message Overbite, asking about how she feels about this, and this was her response. Agil is 19 and I'm 17. His YouTube audience is primarily a bunch of creeps that drew over every fanpole he makes, and the fanart of me was no exception. And he outright said that he planned to make another piece of fanart of me where I was in a bikini, even though I told him not to, and I'm a minor and he's an adult. So I was very uncomfortable. So yeah, as you can see, Chester was just trying to call out a weirdo who would draw minors OC without consent to the point of doing it again despite knowing that they are a minor. And Cyberboxer thought that it would paint Chester in a bad way somehow. Okay, now let's move on to the first screenshot. In it, we see two censored commissions that were made by a not safe for work artist. Chester found out about them through YouTube, where they would post images and some videos. But they are mostly active on Instagram and Twitter. and Chester decided to commission that artist. The first commission is actually public, and it was public for over a year, and it seems like Cyberboxer decided to censor it to make it seem like Chester commissioned something very disgusting. Well, let's look at it. Well, there it is, I guess. Obviously, this can be viewed as a very suggestive artwork, but it is essentially just one of the pissed characters in a beach suit. Now, the second commission, on the other hand, happened half a year ago, and it was a Christmas gift for one of Chester's friends. For context, that friend is 3 months older than Chester, and that friend is not the person who leaked the messages. For privacy, I'm not going to show the gift and the person for whom it was gifted, but all I will say that this commission does include nudity. But it mostly could be described as an artistic nudity. With that said, what Chester did was still wrong, and I'm not going to defend him on that. There are plenty of artists who provide not safe for work commissions, and it is a pretty common rule that you need to be an adult to commission them such material. Some artists ask for verification, but majority of them don't, and a lot of such commissions essentially boil down to trust me, bro. Chester not only put himself in danger, but the artists themselves. I can't believe that I need to tell this, but minors should not interact with not safe for work content. Not only does it mentally ruin you, but it also endangers you to be groomed. So please, don't do that. Now, let's look at what we have. Cyberboxer tried to paint Chester as a hypocrite because he commissioned 2 artworks, one of them was private, while calling out a weirdo for making art of a minor's OC without their consent. Kinda looks like the people who tried to cancel Chester were not actually trying to call out a potential problematic person, and did all of that just out of spite. Now, you may wonder, who was the person who leaked Chester's DMs? And you may wonder, why does it matter? Well, because the person who leaked them is actually a lot more problematic than Chester. Let's talk about Erti. Erti was Chester's friend and was the person who leaked the messages that you have seen on the first image in Cyberboxer's post. Why would they do that in the first place if that person was considered a friend? Chester confronted Erti about it, and he said that he was threatened by Cyber because that guy had some personal information about him. As a proof, Erti sent these messages, which I have translated myself. Although it doesn't really matter because, as you can see at the top right, I wrote that the conversation was staged because the time when it began was literally a couple of minutes from the time when Chester asked them why. Erti tried to also fool Chester by saying that the time was incorrect and that they live 2 hours earlier from where Chester lives, even though he later said that he lives in Central Asia, where time zones are an hour or 2 after where Chester lives. After that, Erti decided to come clean and say that all that was a lie, and that he was in cahoots with Cyber all this time. This message is filled with deflections that I'm a different person now, and also threatened to leak more stuff. All of this is extremely hypocritical, because when Chester posted his response to this situation, we see that Erti have done a lot more bad things than Chester with his commission. This list includes drawing not safe for work as a minor, sharing it with other minors, including Chester, and drawing not safe for work of Rem without her consent. Which makes me wonder, why is Chester accused of being a weirdo and a hypocrite, while the person who leaked the messages is even worse? Knowing that Erti was always on Cyber's side, this all feels like a targeted attack from an egotistical person, rather than an attempt at actually calling out a bad apple in the community. While on the topic of Chester's post, let's look at the other 2 images that he shared with his conversation with Cyberboxer after his post. Pause if you need to read them, but from this conversation we see that all this drama happened because Cyber's ego could not handle the fact that he has been acting incredibly rude towards other creators in the community, justifying it by saying stuff like, they started first, even though there have been a lot of proof that he was always the first person to initiate these dramas. This image mentions my situation with Cyber, so I should probably explain what happened. He released his version of Deep Blue, which I have played and was really dissatisfied with it, as well as other people in the community. During that time, there was an announcement for another version of this song, but now made by Sintile and Lex, which ended up being cancelled. And so I jokingly just commented, "Stop," under the video. During that time, there was also a rumor about him putting a virus in his mod called August, which was later disproven. But I was still not a fan of the guy, so I told people to not interact with him, because he's bad. And because of that, he decided that it would be a nice idea to start shit-talking me on his YouTube channel and bringing his squad of people to harass me as well. Because it is a pretty known fact that he has a whole team that comes to anyone that dares to say anything negative about him, even as a joke. You can probably recognize some of the people in this screenshot as they are members of his mod team and some other mods. We're gonna talk about some of the members later. In the second part of the conversation, we see more proof about Cyber's inability to take responsibility for his behavior and seeing everyone as a villain by also demanding each one to apologize. We also see the screenshot of his pinned comment under one of the videos by the creator called Maxus Mark. I wonder what they are up to. Oh, they are protecting Cyberboxer by saying that he did nothing wrong and that RB series was cancelled on YouTube because he was tired of all the bastards that hate him for no reason. And these are kinds of people who are on Cyber's side. Okay, I'm gonna go off topic hint here, but there's no way people are actually trying to rewrite history now, saying that RB was wrongfully cancelled. Buddy, he drew porn of his friends and OCs, which included diaper fetish, and shared it in a private channel on his Discord server, which included minors. He was also incredibly toxic, and his fanbase tried to harass other modmakers like me and Ram for criticizing his mods. Wonder if that reminds me of someone. Anyways, there are actual videos talking about it more in depth, so just watch them. If you want to see the original images that I covered in this section, check Chester's post on his YouTube channel, because now we're gonna move on to Cyberboxer's first victim, a modmaker who was harassed out of this community by him and his people, painted as the bad guy, and who waited several years to finally talk about what he has been doing behind the curtains. Let's talk about McLax. For the context, McLax was a beginner Incredibox modmaker who started his career as the main guy behind the Neon studio, which was mostly known for its version of Wheels. He is also Ukrainian, and during the time when he was writing this statement, he was going through a blackout with no water supply, electricity and internet connection, so the video took a while to make. Still, big thanks to him for the cooperation despite all that. He is currently in a safer place. Now, I will read the statement which will reveal a lot about Cyberboxer. I was looking for a team to join and asked a guy on YouTube with like 50 subs if he knows any good teams that need help, so that I don't need to promote myself in Discord channels and stuff. He responded and invited me to a server with I think 3 other people at the time, which were Cyberboxer, Kironi, and the person who invited me. It was allegedly his team, from what I could figure out, but when I asked about who was the leader there, they said that they're all just kinda doing their thing and don't have an established leader. Basically, nobody in that team was doing anything substantial, and nobody wanted end or was going to do anything. The team wasn't barely hanging on, it was long dead, which I later came to understand was because of Cyberboxer and because of what kind of person Kironi was, plus the general lack of skills, coordination, and will to work among all the members of the team. At first, when I joined, I didn't know it was that bad. I was asking them what they were doing, how's the progress going and all that stuff, but to no avail. After a bit of asking, I have figured out that Kironi was an amateur Scratch mod maker that was trying to make mods with various levels of success, and one of his mods, if you can call them that, was Wheels, based on Incredible Polo's song of course. I don't quite remember if they were making a Wheels mobile port when I joined, or something else, but either way, from what I know, we were planning on doing a mobile port of Kironi's Wheels from scratch. His mod was basically just different parts of the song cut out and slapped onto different polos as their sounds, so that you could kinda mix them. There were like 10 designs which were admittedly not of the best quality, and no animations obviously. What I'm trying to say is that there really just wasn't an actual mod to port. We had to scrap like 99% of it and use the whole Scratch project as just a vague concept and inspiration for what we wanna do on a mobile port. When I joined, they had zero progress on the port, absolutely nothing was ready. And so when I saw this whole situation with a dying team, I decided to help them actually create something cool and to make matters into my own hands. I started actively working, proposing concept art, drawing new designs, kept giving ideas, made sounds in FL Studio, and did basically everything I possibly could for the team. I didn't want to settle for less, so I was working really hard to make it an actually good looking and sounding, well-made mod. And so slowly but surely, due to 98% of my effort and maybe 2% from other members, the team started slowly rising up from its knees. The guy who invited me into the team, who was supposed to be its owner and director, which is who he told me he was, left very quickly because he didn't want to do anything in the team, and just like Cyber, took weeks to finish one simplest task and was also acting weird and freaky, so Cyberboxer kinda just bullied him out of the team, as they were constantly fighting. I didn't know him well at all, and Cyber knew him for quite a while, so I didn't really do much about it. It's a typical conflict and he wasn't doing anything anyway. Cyberboxer was always just a coder in the team, for as long as I knew him after I joined. There wasn't a single hint of him having any role of authority there, but he was a really shitty coder, and all Kironi could do is just amateur level designs on Scratch and chop songs up. That's about it. He had zero experience with main game modding for Incredibox at the time, just Scratch as far as I remember. I was pretty much the only active person in the team who was actually doing something at all times, so I had to do basically everything aside from coding, since I knew nothing about it. Since we were left without a leader, who I thought the guy that invited me there was, and I knew it wasn't really sustainable long term, especially with people who won't even think of doing anything for the mod if they're not mentioned and told to do something, which even then they might just ignore, and I already saw that the team was dying for months before I joined. I started working and helping everyone figure out what to do and how to do it. I can't say I took full control of the team or became the official director, but I was kinda close to some sort of mentor who was giving everyone a sense of direction, while also serving for the team's good as hard as I could. I already was responsible for most of the things the team did in general, even before the previous leader left, and I also was the manager and director for the whole marketing thing, like promoting our mod, planning the teaser, making invite links, doing everything in the new public Discord server that I created for the team, etc. I was already the main figure in the team one way or another. I was doing a huge percentage of all work being done in general, and was as close to being the team's leader as you can get without making it official. The most helpful thing they did is rate and reject my designs, sounds and concept art for the mod, and sometimes suggest a few ideas and adjustments, because I wanted everyone to feel included and tried my best to keep it that way. And the only thing Cyberboxer did aside from that was complain 24/7 about how hard coding is and about how none of us understand it, and we would need to wait weeks to get him to put one sprite into the game. Already he was setting a pretty dark, awkward and weird mood in the team. He also had this fuck-ass gopnik dvarovoy sense of humor and manner of speech, which a lot of the times made him fucking insufferable to work with and to try and have a conversation with, which he of course still has. He also often showed up to the voice and video chats, group meetings that we had, drunk as fuck, might have even been underage at that time, not sure though, and behaving like a dirty pig. The team thrived with me as this sort of guide for the team. They didn't have a name for it, didn't have any kind of branding, no server for people to join, didn't have anything. Even their dev server that they invited me to still had the default name Discord gives you to any server. They achieved absolutely nothing before me. I gave them all of the things I just listed that they didn't have before, and obviously much more all by myself. They didn't help too much, especially not Cyber. They mostly just rated things the same way it was with the designs I made for the mod. I made a lot of different ad posters as creatively as I could, all sorts of promotions, helped the team get a whole recognizable character that people can work with. I was posting on all servers I could, etc. The difference before and after me was night and day. Since the day of its creation, this team hasn't seen this much love from all the members combined. You could tell that nothing like this has ever occurred. No one cared as much as I did before, cause if I actually get inspired to do something cool, I will work on it relentlessly, as hard as I can to achieve the result. And so after maybe a month of me just working actively like this, I said in the chat that as we don't have a properly established leader in the team yet, and I'm already doing all the things that one should do and more, let's make me the official leader, if no one's against it. I wasn't trying to be pushy about it, it was formulated like a suggestion, not an order. Nobody spoke against it, they were all kinda just fine with it at the time, but I do have to say that later on, Cyber didn't seem thrilled about this being the case, even though he wasn't saying anything. It will become clear later why that was. In retrospect, I do think that I should have been more clear about it and made it very obvious that I want to be the one in control of the team officially, and it was a mistake to make it sound like a little suggestion and not a more serious decision. But back then, I already was literally doing everything a leader does and more, and the team wasn't taking anything too seriously, not even their own mod and server. And aside from me, there were only 2 other people in it. I was sure that the guy who invited me there was the leader, and he left. Therefore, this role was empty in my eyes. I also gave them the admin roles on the server and kept listening to their opinions as much as I listened to my own. So I figured it wasn't that big of a deal, which was in fact wrong of me to do. I'm not trying to justify my actions, or doing it the way I did it in general. I'm just saying it so that it can be a lesson for people in the future to be extremely careful and abundantly clear when talking about any kind of power and authority. Now I was the leader, I was promoting the team by all means possible, I started hiring people, tried making it so that more and more people knew about the team and joined the public server. And most importantly, I have hired one of the most talented people I have had the honor of working with to date. All that's relevant to the story right now is that they were a fucking unfathomably good artist, and in general just a very kind and creative individual who became my friend at that time. So I gave them a designer role and they were doing just that. Together, we have refined all of the creativity and design related ideas that I originally had about the mod, the studio logo and all that stuff, and then presented it to the others. We came up with a new name and the branding for the studio, etc. I always try to be inclusive with everyone, keep the vibes nice and keep the progress going. Whenever someone suggested something or disliked a design concept, we immediately tried to find a compromise until every single person in the team liked it. After some time, when I saw what the new artists I hired can do, I stopped doing designs because they were tens of times better at it than I was at the time. But I was still doing sounds and concept and went even deeper into management, marketing and directing department of the team and kept trying to innovate shit and give back to the team with everything I could, which was still showing great results and visible progress for the team. Yet Cyberboxer, being a lazy ass bitch, heavily disliked that I stopped making designs. By then I think he was the person with the most authority in the team after me, so he started asking questions like, why do I have to work and you're not doing anything? Even though I was doing way more than him in my lane and for the team in general, which wasn't a hard task, cause he was doing literally fucking nothing. You present everything he needs to do right in front of him on a silver platter, and all he could do is say that he would do it later, whine about how hard it is to code and how he has no time to work, even though, judging by the calls we have had, all he was doing is lay on his couch all day. Him underestimating my contribution to the team started way earlier, but now he really started to slowly let his true nature seep through his good guy with good intentions mask. His code was horrible, some early ChatGPT level of expertise. His attitude was horrible, he kept acting like he was doing the most work for the team and all of us were just slacking off, even though it was completely the other way around. I always had to fucking ask him 15 times to do at least something before he gets his ass up from the couch. I had to talk to him like to a fucking baby, saying shit like, Cyber, please, you need to understand, everyone is working and you're not. No code equals no progress equals no mod. We need you to work, please. That was already annoying as fuck, but I tried to tolerate it as I tried to be as kind and inclusive as I could. And I wasn't really sure at the time how hard coding for Incredibox specifically really was, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I tried being understanding, respectful, etc. We only had 4 people I think in the team, and I'm a very non-conflicting person, so I really tried my best to keep things cool. Didn't want to fight, didn't want to fire him, cause we had no other coder. But the more I gave in to his bullshit, the more he showed his true self. Even though I was still doing fucking everything in the team except design and what Cyber himself was supposed to do, he never saw any of it and kept saying that I'm doing nothing and he is doing everything. Even though during each call and group meeting I was reporting on everything I did for the team, and all the results it gave us: made a server, a YouTube channel, a teaser, hired new people, made concepts for sounds and designs, made full actual sounds, drew ad posters, promoted everything, controlled the team's progress, gave everyone in the team orders/directions, consulted with everyone, interacted with the audience, helped our designer with ideas, and much more. I tried to stay friends with everyone, and yet Cyberboxer just started mildly harassing, bullying, and humiliating me and other people in the team. His ego has grown to fucking unbelievable sizes. He was wearing down the whole team with his presence. It was almost suffocating, especially for me, who was kind and thoughtful with him from beginning to end, and did literally nothing to deserve such treatment. If he did anything for the mod, he did it after half an hour of talks on why he should do it, and was like, fine, I'll do what you want from me. I don't fucking understand why the fuck should I do anything when you and others can just do nothing the whole day, but fine, I'll do this stupid bullshit. Do you not understand that I don't want to do it and how hard it is? Which was fucking infuriating. But again, we could not really afford to lose our only coder. The team would just stop the progress completely until we find a new one, so I just had to stand there and watch him progressively become more and more passive-aggressive, hostile, unwilling to cooperate and show his true self. So I started noticing that at that point he was almost openly hating on me and others. He was still kind of trying to keep his mask on if possible, but it became increasingly harder because his real disgusting nature kept showing more and more. He was still kinda in the team, he was still kinda working, but he became so hostile and unstable that you basically never knew when and why his next tantrum would happen. This created an absurd amount of tension and pressure on the whole team. Any conversation with him eventually ended in a fight of varying impact. As soon as he didn't like something, instead of just saying it, his first instinct was to accuse someone, to blame people, to throw a tantrum like a child, or something of that nature. All this is to say that before the team was actually any good and actually worth anything, everything was kind of fine. He was still a lazy ass bitch who was trying to make excuses, but the levels of hostility were much lower. And that's where I started catching on to his fucking plan. His goal here was never to be a part of a good team that worked together for a better future. Cyber's goal was to find someone who can rise the team that was fucked up by him from its knees, use them as much as he can, then do everything in his power to make them want to leave the team and take all the credit and power to himself. In my opinion, one of the worst things a person can possibly even think of doing in a team. This whole time, the only thing he was concerned about was not the team, not our progress, but his own huge ego and hunger for control. So when I thought that I was helping the team and making it grow, in his eyes, I was just playing his game and falling for his traps. He made an absurdly evil, cruel, highly calculated plan on how to get rid of me without raising much suspicion and keep his reputation and good guy mask intact. I started really suspecting things when the shit he complained and started fights about was getting absurdly minor and negligible, to the point where he would start fights literally 2 sentences after we greeted each other. He would start a fight over the way I fucking greeted him or something, and because I was a nice person at heart and tried my best to minimize the things that would actually trigger him, he would start trying harder and harder to find the most obscure and absurd things to fight over, even though everyone else, and even he himself, before I actually made the team worth stealing from him, did not mind any of it. I tried talking about it with him when we were calling. I would show him that those things existed before and he was fine with them before, and ask him why is this the problem now, which he had basically nothing to say about, because he knew I was right. I tried to resolve things peacefully, but when a person has a strict plan to fuck you up and follows every step of it, convincing and talking is useless. He has chosen his own path, and it goes directly against me, and the longer it continued, the more pieces of the puzzle came into place. I realized that he actually started making his plan come to life way before I suspected anything. In retrospect, I started noticing certain patterns in the things he said and did before, and it all became abundantly clear for me. He had a well-made, manipulative, exclusively harmful, and exclusively egotistic plan for this whole operation for a very long time now. Knowing what his plan actually was, all those bullshit excuses for fights made a lot more sense, because as the nice leader and person that I am, I was never giving him more material to fuel his tactical manipulative anger with, and even if anything bad occurred, I tried my very best to resolve it as soon as possible, and he was trying his best to hold on to it for as long as he can before I fix the issue and to drag it as far as possible so that he has at least somewhat acceptable reason to fight about, even if I already fixed it. He still tried to reopen this closed case to get more value from one conflict, which obviously always failed, because it was all resolved, but he was really desperate to find something. I kept seeing more calculation, malice, and this psychopathic intent in all his previous words and actions. All of it was carefully thought through. You could tell that none of it was spontaneous. He was a monster. For the longest time, he carried this plan in his head, thinking how to pull it off more efficiently, less obvious, how to keep his nice guy image, and seeing me and all the members of the team as pawns on his chessboard, while I was seeing him as a friend with short temper. I tried abstracting myself from it. I tried convincing myself that maybe he's going through a hard time right now. Maybe he's not feeling well. Even during our talks, I was asking logical questions. For example, like, why is this something that bothers you? Tried to get to the roots of the issue. Asking him, why do you have problems with this? Why is it so hard for you to do things I ask you to do? Why did you start actively disrespecting the people in the team? And why are you especially targeting me? Why did you stop doing what you're told? And I want to emphasize that I am very careful with all power and authority I ever get anywhere. Try not to get drunk with it, not to overstep any boundaries. I try to keep it all friendly. I didn't even try to make it into a boss-worker relationship. We were all friends there, and I didn't want to lose any of them, and let my basic human kindness and understanding go with it. I thought we were just working together for the same goal, never wanting to make myself an all-powerful ruler and make him some kind of slave under my control. But it all turned out to be part of his manipulative plan that very unfortunately for him, I was able to catch onto before he managed to pull it off. I have fully uncovered his entire system that he was building this whole time, to the point where I could even predict some of his next moves, like the things he's gonna try fighting over next, for example, because of how clearly it was all mapped out in his rotten little fucked up brain. So knowing this plan, I started literally countering and preventing this whole fight bullshit entirely. I literally started forming sentences in such a way that there could not possibly ever have been a single tiniest thing he could latch onto and start a fight over. My words were smoother than butter and sweeter than sugar. And then one of two things happened. Either he realized that he won't get far with his current plan because of how precisely I avoided any of these ridiculous conflict points, or he realized that I actually caught on to his plan. After that, it was his breaking point. He took off his mask completely and started just insulting and cursing me for all the things he could for literally no reason. Started doing everything in his power to get me to leave the server that I have created and cultivated on my own from beginning to end. Absurd amounts of toxicity were poured onto me from all directions at the same time. I was imagining him with a foaming mouth and eyes bloodshot from anger when he was typing that shit. He was absolutely desperate to make me leave the server and take over the throne. He had fucking biblical level of hunger and power. Funnily enough, later I learned that this tendency was showing across many other chats and servers. There are screenshots of him begging the owners to make him a moderator on nearly every server he was on at some point, as he was saying, just for funsies, implying that he wasn't hungry for power at all. And all of this was just because why not? And that he won't have to do the actual work a moderator does. He just wanted this feeling of satisfaction, realization of him being placed even slightly, but still higher than the others. And that's where it leaves him in our case. Cyberboxer was friends with Kironi before I joined the team. As I figured out later, Kironi himself was a pretty easily trusting person that was ready to follow anyone who would really want to be followed. So as you can imagine, this is the dream guy for a manipulator like Cyberboxer, a victim that's extremely easy to work with, use however you want, reshape and rewire their beliefs and opinions to your liking. And of course, as the worst human being he is, Cyberboxer used that opportunity right up and started slowly but surely forcing him into going against me. As Kironi himself told me later, during our calls, Cyberboxer was lying to him, which for the time being Kironi of course didn't know were lies, manipulating him and as usual doing everything in his power to make him believe that I was the evil one here, even though it was very clearly the other way around. Kironi, being the trusting simple guy he was, saw Cyberboxer as just a friend of his, which unlike me, he did not realize was not the case. Unfortunately, for the most part, I do not have the details regarding what exactly was Cyberbox saying to Kironi to make him see me as the enemy, since of course he was doing it all in complete secret from me, but from Kironi's own words, I know for sure that he used some heavily manipulative language, a lot of twisting of the truth, and possibly even more blatant lies, mixed with stupid assumptions. What I was able to get from my calls with Kironi is that they were trying to find some sort of way or loophole to get me out of the team, so that Cyberboxer takes full control over it. And as you know by now, I was trying to give them as little objective, justifiable reasons to start fights and make me leave as possible. I was trying to be both the best leader and friend I could ever be to all of them. Because of that, Cyberboxer could not find any kind of reasonable excuse or pretext to kick me out of the team and make me actually look evil. Who could have thought that if you look for bad intent where there isn't any, you won't find any, right? So the only thing that Cyberboxer managed to dig up to show how heartless and horrible I am is that the original creator of the mod we were porting was Kironi and not me. Mind you, by that time, not a single fucking piece of media of any kind from Kironi's original mod that was actually just about 10 poorly made designs and sounds cropped out of the song that he doesn't own in any way, was in the mod we were making. There was literally no relation to that old Scratch project except for maybe a few very vague inspirations for some of the designs. It was a completely new mod, with completely new sounds and designs, made by a person who doesn't even know Kironi, let alone has seen the full original Scratch project he made. So yeah, Cyber's entire point was that it was Kironi's idea to make a mod for this song that again, he has zero rights over. Cyber kept saying that I stole the mod from Kironi because I wasn't all that firmly established as the official leader in the team, and since Kironi was the one who created the project we were porting, he was the true leader and director, which I think if Cyber didn't push that idea down his throat, Kironi wouldn't have even really wanted that much responsibility in a growing team, but that's just a guess from what I have seen. Cyberboxer knew that the way I became the leader was less authoritative and official looking, and more wonky than it should have been ideally. Took that, twisted it to an absurd extent, then used it to his full advantage and started saying that I allegedly stole the mod from Kironi on all servers, which is pretty ironic because Kironi himself, the guy who was supposed to have been robbed by me, didn't even have a say in it and just let Cyberboxer say whatever he wants about this while watching the situation from a side? Cyber was always just a coder, whether it was in Kironi's or my team, nothing more, but for some weird reason, he was the one to talk for Kironi and represent him, not even letting him say a word, justifying it with the fact that Kironi was his friend, and he just deeply cared about him. It seemed as Kironi had even tried to calm him down a bit sometimes and be more objective about it, because he knew what kind of guy I actually was, yet Cyber kept shouting louder than ever over his words. He was afraid that Kironi would just tell him to stop bullshitting about me and saying that I stole the mod, because clearly I did not, even if the way I became the lead was a bit questionable. I'm quoting Cyber's own words that he was saying to Kironi during their calls talking about me. «Он нагло спиздил твой мод, а ты его настоящий создатель и владелец!» He kept speaking for Kironi again, saying how horrible he felt about me stealing the mod from him, which after my calls with Kironi himself, I also found out was straight bullshit. He talked about how everything was going great in their team before I joined, which, as you know, their team was an all-time low when I first joined. He kept acting like I had ruined everything and they had a thriving team and a gorgeous mod, and once I joined it was somehow all gone. He was saying that I stole it and now suppressing the real creator of the mod, Kironi and not letting him work on it, and that he was still the real director and wants to keep working on it and continue his passion, and that evil McLax is not letting him do that. For the record, Kironi at that time was less helpful to the mod itself than ever, because he only had experience with scratch modding and a tiny bit of design, and aside from helping us edit our first teaser, which was in fact of great help, was normally doing about as much as Cyberboxer, but he wasn't a fucking hostile bitch about it, and I'm sure would have worked fairly actively if he had the required skill set, so I didn't mind it and always respected him as the original creator of the Scratch project. Plus, we had other active people that were working. Cyber was pretending and trying to manipulate Kironi himself into believing that I really did steal his mod, and that he did not approve of me being the new leader, even though I did ask to be the leader, albeit not in the most clear way possible, not just randomly proclaim myself one without caring about anyone's consent. Plus, I thought that the guy that left the team shortly after I joined was the director, and the throne was free to take. He kept presenting it as if I just randomly came into their already perfect team, ruined their mod and the team itself, stole the mod and the idea for it, said that I will be the new ruler here without asking, and they're all just poor victims of my cruelty, having to endure the suffering of unwillingly being under my control like slaves and watch me ruin their perfectly good project. As the tension was growing in the team and he became completely uncontrollable and infinitely aggressive, which was him finally showing who he really was this whole time and what he was trying his best to hide under a mask, I started genuinely getting scared for the server and for an absolutely deranged guy like him to have any power over anything. First, I took some of his roles away and he kept acting like he didn't understand why. I still tried to be kind and respectful, even though I wasn't getting any of that back, and I was carefully explaining to him what happened and why it happened, trying my best not to set him off. When that didn't seem to help, I took off some other of his roles, and then finally, when nothing at all seemed to work, I completely took off all the roles of perks from his account. This only made him more mad, since he could not harm me and the server now. But there was one thing I forgot about. It was bots on the server. I didn't know much about them at the time, so since he was supposed to be the tech guy, I let him add and set most of the bots that I did not fully know how to work with. And although he had no roles that granted him power over the server, the bots did, and he had almost full control of them. And then, when he realized that I won't leave the team on my own, he can bully me out of it, and I have caught on to what he's trying to do, he used Plan B. He became unusually calm and even somewhat cooperative, which at the time I naively thought was a good thing, and he was learning from his mistakes. But all of that turned out to just be a manipulative distraction, to make it look like we were friends again and he learned his lesson. He tried to fool me into thinking that he was a good guy again, but in reality he just decided that if he can't have the team, no one can, and then used the bots he had access to just nuke my whole server. He could not delete the server itself, there were only a few things the bots let him do, but it was enough to cause catastrophic damage, especially when I wasn't very good with those bots, and I didn't know everything they were capable of. He used all my vulnerabilities to his advantage. He banned every person on the server, deleted all channels, removed all perks from all roles, and probably caused more damage, but even that was enough to render the server completely useless, effectively deleting it. Over a year of my hard work was gone in less than a minute. I was destroyed and hollowed out mentally just like that server, because at the time it meant the whole world to me. All those people who were supporting our work, helping us grow, encouraged us to keep working on our projects and inspired them were gone. Everything on the server was gone. My soul was crushed and I was shaking. It's impossible to explain it in words, no matter how silly that sounds now. Back then, it felt like losing a close relative, which yes, I have experienced before, so I know what I'm talking about. I was absolutely devastated, and I'm still yet to fully recover from that and everything that followed. But then, I suddenly get messages from Cyber who's still sure that I'm not suspecting anything about him, and he's successfully fooling me. That's where his "we're still friends, everything's cool" act comes into play. He made sure that I was still thinking we were best buddies, and he didn't have bad intentions regarding me or my server at all. He did it so that I won't suspect him to be the one who destroyed the server. That was some sort of alibi for him. Another disgusting, well-calculated move that would have probably worked on someone as brainless as the puppets he's usually in control of. That's why when I confronted him about it, he acted all surprised that I would suspect him and pretend that we were still friends and everything was good, so it could not have been him. As he said in those messages, "I don't need that at all," about deleting my server to make it look like there wasn't any planning or betrayal behind his actions. So then he texts me, he's screaming, yelling, talking in all caps, saying that we were hacked! He kept saying that I had turned off our safety protocols and it was all on me that the server got hacked. He tried to blame me for letting in the intruder that managed to break our server, the server that I have created on my own and was growing for over a year on my own, the server that I was learning how to work with bots to protect because I was afraid of losing it like it was my child. He blamed me for it without a fucking flicker of remorse or conscience showing. It was as if a fucking murderer that just took away the life of my child in front of me walked up to me, handed me the knife they did it with and started pointing fingers at me and yelling that I'm the killer, while being covered in blood. It was like talking to a psychopathic maniac who fundamentally doesn't understand the concept of feelings. I was utterly shocked, to say the least. Obviously at that time I didn't even think of doing anything at all with our server's safety protocols. He then said that I have set our roles wrong, which I could not have possibly done wrong, and they were like that for a year now and everything was fine, and conveniently enough he didn't notice anything wrong with it at any point before this, while checking them every day. He kept making up more and more excuses, which at that point a fucking toddler would know were straight bullshit. He was so fucking desperate to keep his good guy image that he tried to make me, the creator of the server itself, believe that I did it, through toxicity, manipulation and verbal abuse. Later on, he was obviously bragging to people that he hacked my server, and Kironia told me that he has been slowly developing and growing this nasty, disgusting plan for a really long time, so there is zero doubt that it was entirely the result of his horrific, calculated actions, and not just a convenient, unfortunate accident, as he was trying to present it. I fell into a deep depression, which since then has only gotten worse. All because of that. But that's just the beginning of this fucking horror story. After he did it, he kept on spreading those blatant lies about me getting into their team, destroying everything they had and claiming all the power and credit for it everywhere he could. But this time, he was also adding another blatant lie about me being such a shitty and uncaring server owner that I just turned off the safety protocols of our server and let in the mysterious intruder who has hacked our entire server. He tried to cancel me on the level of the whole community like they did with Erti back in the day. He told that tale to his friends, who were then sending me threats on Telegram without even knowing what really happened and blindly following his lead, believing his every word. Now all of them posted that shit in all servers they could, saying that I was a lying, disrespectful bastard that doesn't let creators work freely on their projects and joins random servers and fucks up teams, etc. Imagine my fucking feelings when I wake up to literal fucking hundreds of those notifications and shit. Both Zdeshny and Lyohanyan threatened me on Telegram, cyber-made group chats with me, himself and all of his gang in it, where they were just trying to talk to me and find out the truth, but all they actually did was harass me and try to force me to say that I actually stole their mod and shit. I have had fucking unknown numbers text me in the middle of the night that I'm in huge trouble and I should be careful on the streets. Those rumors were everywhere because of them. My life has turned into a fucking nightmare. All my friends texted me about it, asking if any of it was true. It has completely fucked up my mental health, and I have never had an opportunity to recover. I'm still fucking shaking just thinking about those times. Those were one of the worst and most hard times of my life. I was harassed, publicly and personally, all day long, in all ways imaginable. A lot of the times by the people that I didn't even know existed. They have only heard Cyber's part and believed it all blindly, just like his gang, cause who the fuck needs facts and logic when you have Cyberboxer? They treated him like a fucking god. I tried to kill myself sometime after, because it was truly unbearable what those monsters were doing to me. Thankfully that did not work out, as you can tell. But the most insane thing about it is that within 15 minutes of Cyberboxer starting this whole movement against me, I have started a call with Kironi personally and asked if he was really with Cyber here and if he really thought that I stole his mod. He fucking said no. He literally said that he is twisting the truth and Kironi actually noticed and appreciated my huge contribution to the team and said that I had his full permission and right to own this mod and be his only leader and director, but he also mentioned in one of our calls that if he was to say anything about it to Cyber, he will also threaten him and try to shut him up, and he didn't want any problems with that guy. So while not supporting his actions or beliefs, he didn't actively try to stop him either, which is completely understandable. I would not wish those horrors upon anyone except for those who did it all themselves. Basically, the whole conflict was resolved during a 10-15 minute call with Kironi himself, and Cyber dragged it for many more years for no reason at all, even though I have told him that I have all the matters resolved with Kironi personally. I have devoted all of myself to this team for almost 2 years just for this to be the outcome, and for Cyberboxer to then build a career in the community on my misery and pain. They have put curses and threats addressed to me at their fucking Discord bios and changed their nicknames to Maclax is a bitch or some shit like that, and called me names and harassed me on public servers. I told Cyber to stop speaking for Kironi and let the man himself speak, but he refused to do that for some reason. However, I knew that it was because Cyber knew that Kironi would not objectively side with him. I wasn't afraid to ask Kironi himself because I knew that I did nothing wrong on such a huge level, and therefore there's nothing for him to say against me. Cyber did not need his real opinion. He needed to use him as a living shield, as an excuse to justify his disgusting actions. Just a guy that will believe what you tell him without much checking, and one you can use to make it look like he's the one who wants me to be kicked out of the community, not Cyber himself. It was clear that he did not give two flying fucks about Kironi and what he wants. He just used him and his position of the original creator of the Scratch mod as a convenient tool. And in his master plan, as soon as Kironi got his leadership over the team, Cyber would just manipulate him into giving all the power and authority to him, which is what he was truly looking for. He saw a great opportunity, an awesome, thriving team, fully provided by me, an excuse to kick me out of the team, provided by Kironi because he was the original creator of the Scratch project that was literally not related to the current version that I made at all at this point, which is somehow justifiable in his head. And Kironi himself, being a guy who under enough pressure would break, that Cyberboxer is more than happy to apply to anyone, will just give him all the control over the team. After talking to Kironi via voice chats, I have realized that Cyberboxer was never a true friend to him and always saw him as either a nice tool to use when everything is fine, or a cannon fodder that he does not care about the well-being of otherwise. I was a tool to create a team that's worth stealing for him, and Kironi was an excuse to kick me out of the team when it was already thriving thanks to over a year of my relentless work on it, so he no longer needed me to do anything. That's how he treats all people, it's all just business for him. As soon as you can be used, he throws you out like a piece of trash, even if you were sworn brothers for life before. He's a fucking monster, disgusting, pathetic, lowly and rotten human being. He tried so hard to make me leave the team on my own through harassing me without having to make it that serious and to keep his fake good guy image, but I have cracked his plan, and that's what it led to. He thought I'd be as easy to manipulate as Kironi and would avoid conflict and serve him justice due to my peaceful nature, but as soon as I have refused to become one of his dolls and abide by his cheap fucking puppetry, he went fucking mad. He pretended to have just been taking care of Kironi, while for some reason suspiciously shutting him whenever he tried to talk on his own, while in reality, the only person in this world that Cyber cares about is himself. I think that if I had just left the team when he wanted me to, he would eventually throw Kironi out too, because he wasn't that useful for modding aside from Scratch, and it's very natural for Cyber to use people and leave them with nothing, with no remorse when they have given their all, because I think Kironi would have left the team if he was in my place, harassed just as heavily. Later, it kept on going for years. I continued posting progress on the mods I was making in various Discord servers, and in each fucking one of them that he was in, he and his gang would type some bullshit like, "Leave the community already," or just light harassment and insults, saying that all my mods are shit and that he does everything better, talking about it for years on end and lying in all chats he was in. As soon as he got the opportunity, he and his whole team were sending those annoying ass gifs like, "This guy stinks" and "You're not a Sigma," or some random bullshit like that, under legit every single post I made anywhere. They were wildly and aggressively attacking even the posts that have absolutely nothing to do with Cyberboxer, Kironi, Wheels, any members of Cyber's gang, or anything related to that. Like for example, post I made about my mod named Aurora, which started production and was made a long time after the whole drama with Cyber ended, and we didn't talk for a while already when I was posting that. He didn't even have his imaginarily weak ass excuses to do that, he just did it without any entirely. There were also like 15 skull and middle finger reactions under every post I made anywhere from him and his team, which I then reported to Ram because it got way too annoying, and she took the ability to leave reactions for him and his gang on her server, which after that his entire team with him started threatening me, but this time deleting the messages so that I won't have time to screenshot it. Later it was rumored that he was planning to dox me and then find a way to recruit people around me to quote, "kick my ass and teach me a lesson" by threatening me and my family and engaging in a physical fight with me. Those rumors were based on the fact that he was already known for doxing people, which he was openly bragging about himself, and that he also had paid subscriptions for Telegram bots that can reveal the phone number, address, location, and a shit ton of other personal information about anyone, had other alleged hacking skills and a lot of shady connections with people in that sphere. And to this day, if I post anything anywhere, I'm guaranteed to get jumped by his whole team with everything they can do. Threats, calls, texts, reactions, gifts, spam, lies, etc. They keep walking around all servers and Telegram chats and telling those tales that Cyber have come up with that for the time being have absolutely no truth to them, since even that singular somewhat kinda fair conflict with me not having my authority over the team established in a more official, serious way was resolved years ago in a literal 15-minute call with the Scratch Project creator themselves. To this day, I'm severely affected and suffering from the consequences of all this, and I'm yet to recover. Keep in mind that this is only covering the most major conflict and it all goes much deeper, but a lot of the things that happened were lost to time or forgotten about. So yeah, in reality, the full picture is even worse than that. Jesus, even after reading it again, I feel incredibly sick from what Cyber did. Imagine being so pathetic, so bitter and manipulative that you would ruin someone's life over a misunderstanding. Because of the server being deleted and a lot of threats and harassment messages also being deleted, McLex could not get a lot of the screenshots with proof. But the ones I showed, especially when Cyber directly on Ram's server threatened McLex to leak some audio logs, I think it's easy to say that this statement is true, and what Cyber did actually happened. For a couple of years, McLex has been harassed by this community without anyone letting him tell his side of the story, but I hope with this video now everyone will know what truly happened. McLex isn't the only one back then who suffered from Cyberboxer's actions. During the statement, we already saw what he did with Kironi, and during previous sections we see how he treated Chester and me. Now, you might have heard about other victims, some of them Cyber personally hacked, and Cyberboxer was really happy about it, as you can see in this screenshot. Now, I think you all heard about one of his victims, a 16-year-old girl whom one of Cyber's friends threatened to draw porn. That included a lot of poop fetish with the other friends. Not of her character, but her real self. Barely when she reached 16. McLex tried to reach out to her, but she refused to participate in this video, and wants to move on from what Cyber and his friends did. But all of that was real, and there was a real victim. There has also been cases of Cyber mistreating his team members, and even outright not crediting some for their contribution. For one mod, a person made 5 characters for it, but Cyber didn't include him because of some personal beef he had with them. And as you can see on the screenshots, Cyber doesn't have any remorse and instead blames the other guy instead. But I think the other biggest victim was Incredibox Animator. Yes, that Incredibox animator. I asked him personally what he thinks about Cyber and what issues he had with him, so here's what he said. What I know about him is that he is definitely lying about his age, because I remember I saw his friend Loha say that Cyberboxer was the same age as him, and Loha is currently 19 right now. That's pretty much all I know about him, and I also know about the whole drama stuff. The experience I had with him was so-so. His friends Itsforia and Misha leaked ages, and he was the one that was going to make a mod out of the leak stuff and probably release it. After that, him and his friends hated me, and when I called him out for it on his server, he banned me. Another thing that happened was that he harassed two of my friends, Corey and Ace, and when Ace tried to talk to him, he was blocked and he got banned from his server as well. And also he would always not take the situation seriously whenever we tried to resolve it, calling me and my friends IAs, goons, and stuff like that, and he would always put a laughing emoji whenever he would talk to us. He also stole one of the sounds I made for Cold Seamer's Deep Blue. I didn't actually make the sound for Cold Seamer, but for a remix. I had told him he could use them, but I told him not to after he leaked ages, yet he still used them. I tried to solve it with him and we had something. We would just ignore each other up until this new situation/drama came out. This is pretty much my whole experience with him. An Incredibox animator wasn't the only person whose mod he decided to leak. Cyber, as he says, had a whole stash of mods that were leaked to him by one of his friends. And here he shows them and brags about it like it's an achievement. Speaking of bragging, he really likes to brag about himself and his team, especially about how they are able to make mods very fast, unlike these Yankees who make mods very slow but get a lot of praise. He also says that he would shit in these mod makers' mouth. How mature. He also just doesn't really like when you criticize his mods. For example, his latest mod, which was a remake of RB Series' Thriller, had pretty long loops, and one of the Telegram group members criticized the mod for that. And Cyber and his team, like normal people, decided to respond like this. Dude, if you did not like this, go make your own mod. Nobody is forcing you to speak. I will look at you how you're gonna try to make for loops in official game engine. Why everybody only finds the bad side of the mod? What, no one can praise us, the mod makers? There are only 4 of us who are making these fucking mods like we are in a factory, unlike these Yankees that have 20 people in their team and taking 3 years to make a mod. These people would never make similar mods like ours. I fucking hate this phrase. You don't have to be a chef to rate the food. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, absolutely normal reaction to criticism. Kinda reminds me of one Red Bunny from the past. The reaction was so normal that he decided that he had enough and that he would leave the community because of people hating him. Again, shifting the blame on others, but he is never the issue. Anyways, to wrap things up, now you see why Cyberboxer and a lot of his other people who you might see some on the screen should not be welcomed in this community. In my opinion, he is one of the reasons why it has become toxic and unwelcoming. With constant threats of being hacked, harassed, manipulated over a simple opinion or a stupid joke, no wonder people feel unsafe in here. I won't be surprised if after this video he or others will try to reach out to me or threaten me in any ways, just to scare me. If that will happen, I will share this as another evidence of him and his members being absolutely despicable, because only guilty people would act like that. And for your own safety, if any of these people will come to your Discord servers or any other places, I recommend you to ban them, and not in any circumstance. Do not interact with them. Do not click on any links that they send you, and just ban or block them. That's going to be it. Please take care of yourself, and I hope this community will eventually become better. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
We are the soldiers of the IDF, the world's most moral army. And we have discovered a solution to a most perplexing quandary. The human shield when a terrorist hides behind a human shield. What do you do? Let the terrorists go? Well, we say no. Human shields are expendable because they're animals. So we propose to go and shoot the shields. We should shoot the shields. The human